All right, thank you all again coming to the Brattleboro Planning Services March 2nd, 6 p.m. meeting. I'd like to call the order of the meeting, and just want to make sure we do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. Just for the other planning commissioners, Thomas traveling, he was gonna try to zoom in, but
Okay.
he asked Gary to chair in case he didn't make it, so we're just gonna get started.
Yes. And I just want to add also, we do have Cassandra Holloway, and she's here to speak on some additional information that she has as well. I think, should we just approve the minutes and then see if we want to move the public comments?
And just hold on for a second. They can't hear Gary very well. Can you increase his volume?
Okay. Testing. Can you guys hear me now? Can you hear? 50-50.
Point the microphone at yourself.
I don't know if it's this one or this one here.
Yeah, I think it's the round ones, but we'll let
I
BCTV
think it's the rounders.
help us out here.
Yeah. I think, yeah, these are off.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, is everyone's volume up at their houses or?
Speak up, Gary.
Can you hear me now?
No, you're not shy.
I can hear you. It's just you're quieter, so I didn't know it was going to be complications. Sorry.
Oh, I've been speaking all this week. So basically what I was asking is we do have to approve the minutes for February 2nd. We also have Cassandra Holloway here, and she's going to be speaking in reference to the Health and Wellness chapter. So Sue, do you want us to proceed to approve or?
So I think you can do one of two things. I think we could do the minutes and we could move public comments up because Shiloh Foss and Cassandra Holloway are here and let them speak. They are time constrained, so can't hang out till the end of the meeting. Or we could just like add this as kind of informational to the meeting because there's no action we'll be taking tonight.
Right.
So we could add that up at the front, but maybe just moving public comments for now and letting them speak during that would probably be.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 2nd and to hear from our guest speakers or public comment move to the front of the meeting.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, Sue, I'll let you do the introduction.
All right. So, Cassandra Holloway and Shiloh Foss were here. I think it was our January meeting. Was it, or was it December? To talk about a community health and wellness chapter. So they wanted to. You all may have gotten an email from me with 2 documents. This after 5 today. I think they might reference that, but they were just going to give you an update of their work. So I'll turn it over to Cassandra and Shiloh.
So I will start and then Cassandra will go into what we're going to do in the future. I just want to give everybody an update on the work that we've done since the January meeting, which feels like it was just last week. I feel like time has flown by. So we'll keep this really brief, but since we last spoke, I know that we had talked about there being, multiple templates that were available from other commissions that we could use as kind of just the starting point for the Brattleboro Health and Wellness chapter. And we had talked about different components that are generally included in that chapter. We have, since that meeting, arrived at a template format that we were going to use, but we're also going to tailor just for some of the language because it's already there and exactly what needs to be in a town plan. We just want to tailor it for Brattleboro specifically. And part of tailoring that for Brattleboro is creating a where are we at image for each of the subject areas, which I'll get to what we're doing for that. And also picking out what our key areas of focus were going to be based on templates that were available to us. So we have chosen a version from Hyde Park that was available, and we have looked over the focus areas to include social inclusion, engagement, sense of community, healthy food access and choices, environmental quality, childcare, faith, wisdom, and spirituality, active living, active transportation and recreation, substance prevention, treatment, recovery, and mental health, age-friendly environments, healthy homes, and access to health care and health equity. Some of those might merge into one another, or such as social inclusion and the faith, wisdom, and spirituality. But those are some of the overarching subsections that are going to be in the health and wellness chapter. And then how we plan to gather where are we at for those different subsections are it's a two-part. We want to collect data that is available and recent at the local level for us. So we have a practicum student from Keene State College that is looking over the behavioral risk factor surveillance data, and then our youth risk behavior data, our community health needs assessment, and then also some of the Wyndham Aging Collaborative data that's available. So they're going to be picking out key data points to help build the where we at right now. And then we also, Cassandra and I sat down in each of those areas and we identified sector leaders based on our community work over the last decade. So we sent reflection questions and an ask for what would you recommend for objectives or strategies related to the sector expert area that you were identified in. So we are setting a deadline for mid-March for that. We have about 20 to 25 community partners that are interested in providing input on that. And so that's what we're in the process of right now. And then we will touch base later on about what the information that was collected on that. We're hoping to get the where are we at now, and then look at what do we want for the future to help guide those objectives and recommendations that are part of the health and wellness chapter. So unless anybody has any questions, I will pass it off to Cassandra to talk about where we're going to head in the future now that I've given a kind of little update on what we've done over the last 2 months.
I won't take much longer because we haven't, you guys can just ask questions to both of us. Can you hear me okay, by the way? I'm in a space. Okay, great. So we're hoping to by like March 25th to have all the input kind of consolidated and cleaned up to then share with you all with some areas like gap areas that we feel maybe need more input. I feel like, again, we do have people for each of those sections that we've reached out to, and a lot of people have come back and said they want to participate, which is amazing. So what we're thinking is having the consolidated input, who provided that input, and then also if we see there's gaps that maybe need to be taken to be addressed. And then we're thinking in the spring, what we could do is start to create those chapters for you all. And then I would like to talk to Sue about like maybe in the early fall being able to do public hearings or public input around those topics, and how we could do that in a way that really engages the public. And then hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have it ready to go for an amendment to the town plan. That's what we have.
So I guess the question I want to ask, are you doing any workshops along the way with this as well too, before the fall, with other people that might want to be involved with that to give input, people with experiences, anyone that you may consider to give more additional information, or just during the public comment, they can just kind of give you their own lived experiences or anything that has to do with this going along. That might be something good too, that along the way, that might be helpful to get you a better, perspective or outlook on where people are at and meeting people where they're at out there.
Could you hear Gary well enough?
No, can you summarize that a little bit for me?
All right.
Yeah, no, do you want me to?
Yeah, if you could, my mic is.
So he was asking about how you might be engaging people with like lived experience along the way, and other people who might want to be involved, besides just the kind of experts or.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was where the public input was to come in. So I don't know if we'd want to do that before then the chapters. I just thought it'd be a lot probably easier to have it be like, this is what it looks like, this is the input, and then people can provide input. So I think it's going to continue to evolve. But for example, like for food security, we've reached out to FoodWorks, we've reached out to the director of Food Connects, Lee, I sorry, I can't think of his last name in this moment. Bob Osier, who does, a food shelf. So, I mean, are trying to do an expansive look at things, but it is usually people that are like doing the work, I guess, versus the people that are experiencing the services or experiencing the needs. So I think we have a pretty good brush stroke on like the people involved in those areas. But yeah, I was hoping that would be in the public input component of it. And I don't know if you all would prefer to do the public input prior to us putting the chapters together, or if it makes more sense to put the chapters there like you traditionally do and then have public. I don't know how you usually, or I don't know how you guys do it, but I think we're happy to do whatever works for you all. The order, I guess, that you would normally do for the other parts of your town plan.
So for this town plan, we actually depended on a lot of input done from like special area plans. And at the same time, we were meeting with people in the community and it's like small group conversations, and we had kind of a broad survey about visions and whatnot. And I think did I share that information with you? Because I think some of that,
Yeah, we have some of that,
the work
that we can integrate into it. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, my one concern is, if all you're talking to is the people providing the service, that, I don't want the town plan to be a catch-all to everybody's needs, and like I kind of want it, to make sure that it's balanced, and but I think that drawing that out, in the fall, we'll figure that out too, maybe.
Yeah, and I could just say too, with some of the areas such as the healthy aging, that input has been taken from the community, such as the Wyndham Aging Collaborative, right? The whole phase one of the plan relied on that information, relied on the focus groups. The community health needs assessment, the same. It's the voice of residents, and then also, oh my goodness, there was a
Was it a VCAT? Was it VCAT?
Unfortunately. It wasn't that. No. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. There was one other one that we're drawing from. So in some of the areas, we are drawing from local data that's been compiled with focus groups information as well. And then when, Cassandra said we're gathering, then we want to present to y'all and identify any gaps. I think that would be a great area of opportunity to be able to send that information along cleaned up to you for a meeting, and then maybe talk about brainstorm. Do you see large gaps too? Do you have recommendations? And kind of work through it, aside from that public input session in fall too.
Okay, anyone else want to speak to it? Can you hear me out there in Zoom land? Anyone else want to add to that?
Dan.
Oh, Dan does.
I'll jump in if you unless you wanted to add something, Gary, go right ahead. I can talk on his.
No, we can keep moving along. You go ahead, Dan.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for coming, Cassandra. And I'm sorry. Is it Shyla?
Yes.
Sorry, I was waiting on Zoom, so I think I missed a few minutes there.
Sorry, Dan.
No worries. Just want to let you know I was here. Yeah. So I guess I want to focus a little bit, or even or ask you questions and maybe make suggestions. But I think in general, I see in the you have the goals, policies, and recommendations, and so forth. I'm just not sure, and maybe Sue, you can jump in about sort of the sense of the town plan, whereas you have goals, but you also have standards, right? You have standards that you want to abide by or maintain, and one of those, I guess, my interest would be in the healthy homes section that you have there. There definitely are already town departments that are involved in healthy indoor air quality, for example, healthy, buildings and so forth in terms of inspections and whatnot. I guess I just don't know, and maybe Sue could jump in, as far as the section you do have here, state testing programs? I mean, lead paint, et cetera. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah. So we have so far what we've reached out to is for healthy homes is so Alicia Underwood is doing the lead free homes now, and we reached out to the SASH coordinators who are helping people in that capacity. Reached out to Charles Care about the like our health inspector, and I also reached out to Sevka. They had a fire at their main office. I'm not sure if everybody's aware of that. So I reached out to the weatherization director as well as Josh Davis, who's the ED. So that's who we have so far, to kind of look at that, scope of, and, Shyla and I also, we're using a template that was designed already. So, for the questions. So as far as if people want to do other topics, we're happy to share that. But like Shyla and I don't feel like we have, because that was done by a regional planning commission. So like we felt like that made more sense. But like for us, we don't have that expertise. So we don't really feel comfortable deciding the questions to be asked, or so we're just basing it off what we already have as a template to use as a resource. So again, happy to do it for you all, but we're not the ones who would feel comfortable creating the questions that we would then ask people, if that makes sense. So thanks.
Yeah, that really kind of goes to my main question about this, because I don't really have a good sense yet of where you are going with this. I understand that this is taken from another town, and it appears to be a town in Vermont. I don't know where Hyde Park is, but so a lot of this will be applicable, but it kind of reads like a list of services that are available in the area, and doesn't really have much to do with addressing specific challenges that Brattleboro faces now and in the future. And so those are some of my areas of concern. And just, looking at the things that are listed here, I do have some specific concerns that I don't see necessarily addressed in here, but I'm not sure that right now is really the time to talk about that, because I don't have a good sense of where you are in this process.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak to that a little bit. I think that I was apprehensive to include the intro or anything that we have for a draft necessarily. This intro that was included, that's simply an intro to provide an overview of what's going to be in the chapter. That has nothing to do with how it's tailored or edited for Brattleboro. Right now, we're in the process of grabbing the data and then the sector expert areas. We're relying on the resources because they're robust resources from multiple towns. We just chose what's the simplest format, what's fitting the needs of what Brattleboro's town plan already looks like. We want it very basic, not basic, but we don't want to include all that this ton of like extra information. We don't want to provide, we have a plan for, the master plan for, bike ped. We want to be able to include a link with that. So right now we're in the process of those subsections, gathering the data that we need, gathering the sector expert information that we need based on what the experts all across Vermont have given us. Like, these are questions that you should be touching on. These are objectives and strategies that are are always recommended for these particular areas. So we're relying on those resources because they're the best beyond what we could ever create ourselves. Just as kind of like, all right, this is some of the language we need to use, this is what we need to cover, but then we need to take and we need to spin it for Brattleboro. So we need to make sure that it's fitting this unique community. And right now we're in that process. So This intro is just a very standard, basic, this is what's included in a health chapter, right?
Yeah.
And then like that's it. And then I have the subsections that I put like in there, but it won't even be in that format necessarily. It'll follow the format of, or
Yeah.
the aesthetics of whatever the Brattleboro town plan is. But we're in the process of these subsections getting the where are we from that data and the sector. So it'll be so that's where we're at in the process. We plan on including that like very Brattleboro specific information. We have to harvest it first. And so I want to be like, well, this is what the intro looks like, but it is very stock. It isn't tailored to Brattleboro at all. It sounds very just basic. We're building that right now. We're getting the info that we need to be able to give you something that's unique to Brattleboro. That
Great.
from there be like, oh, this is a gap. Like we don't have this. Let's talk about this. What should we do to address it? But that will be at a future meeting. So it's very basic right now, and I think that it does create some muddy area of where are we going. But that's where our minds are at least with it.
Well, what I was really just trying to get a sense of is whether or not it's appropriate for me to spend a whole bunch of time talking about just some ideas that I have for this. And I think that right now would not be the time for me to do that.
I think I think at the end of March when we have like kind of share what we got already, then it would be a great time for like then you all to get involved and be like, like this could be, you should talk to this person, or this would be a great like, and I think there is a lot of language where there's like pages and pages and pages of language around these topics from each town in Vermont. We chose the Hyde Park because it felt like the closest to kind of what Brattleboro was doing. And it was also like the most completed one because some things it just had like, it was a little less, it was choppier. It didn't really have as much breath. Like I felt like that was the meatiest one and also not super wordy because I know that was something you guys all wanted. So we just felt like out of the 7 options, which I think is what we had, that was the one that seemed most appropriate to kind of use for us, at least to kind of have as a guide. And then obviously Sue has sent us that's Diana. Can you let her in? Sorry, I'm at the Boys and Girls Club getting ready for youth council meeting. So anyway, Sue had sent us the Brattleboro town plan chapters too, so we're going to use that format, but it was just the one that we just kind of wanted to share.
At this point, my concerns are not really the specific language so much as the topic areas.
Yeah. So hopefully when we get to that, like what we have, then that would be the opportunity for you guys to contribute or to ask questions or just talk about like how to get the public input. So we're just not there yet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're at 6:20, so Dad, I guess I'll let you speak to this, and I guess any additional questions they can send to you, Sue, or to Cassandra or Shyla. And if I'm not mistaken, Hyde Park, that's up by St. Albans, right?
Yes.
Okay. Dad.
I just wanted to reiterate, and I guess this could be future, discussion as well, but I guess I am concerned about some of the specific language that, for the sake of the tone of the whole town plan. And that's why I think maybe Sue could, in the future, we could comment about, are we talking about goals? You have in the end of your draft there that you're talking about goals and strategies, and I guess as I was saying earlier, the town sort of maintains standards of, let's say, healthy homes and so forth. I guess I just would like us to have consistency throughout the town plan and the having multiple writers. I'm sure it's all going to go through Sue anyway, but I guess I wouldn't want you to be, putting a lot of effort into things that are sort of like tangible strategies, whereas the town doesn't really implement. Decide what is implementable, I guess.
Can I ask a question, Dan, or just for all? So there is all this kind of like policies and goals and language, right? Examples. There's like this that are all these samples, and I have those all accumulated for each of those sections. And I was thinking, is that something that we'd want feedback on, or is that again make more sense for you all to kind of get all the information and then look at those language, those things that are in other town plans and say this aligns to like Brattleboro? Like, does that feel like instead of asking the broader community for those pieces, that it would be all of you and we do more of the content and based on what you're seeing, oh, this seems like it aligns for us as well. It aligns for what we're getting from Cassandra and Shyla, from everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd like Sue to answer that, but I guess what I just want to, I guess one note of caution, it sounds like what you could be going forward is more like a risk assessment than a plan. You know what I'm saying? And so like if you're digging in for details that in some cases the town already has, in some cases detail may not be available.
Mhm.
So anyway, but to your question, Sue, I think Sue is better to answer that.
Jeez, thanks, Dan.
Sorry, well, I don't know how to answer it, so
Yeah.
hopefully you do.
And I also think this is why we're kind of keeping it just to a I know it's like a 2 dozen people, but like I think we're trying to get it cleaned up before we bring it out to the public, and then it becomes this this unwieldy thing. So I think we are just kind of doing the step, and then we'll check in with you guys. Like, we're not going to get too far ahead. We're just letting you know where we're at right now. So again, I think we're going to have conversations with Sue about like the best approach, but this is kind of, I believe, Sue, based on our last conversation that we had with you and Tom, kind of what we took away from it to take for the next step. So I'm hoping we're walking along with Sue and all of you on this process.
Real briefly, and then we probably should wrap this up. I know Shiloh's got something to say, but generally the way it is like staff will write the objectives, policies, and actions based on it, and then bring it to the planning commission. But certainly discussion, and there's things we missed that they point out. So perfect.
And if I could just for 5 seconds, the Hyde Park, those objectives, that's just a template. Those are just what Hyde Park set. We're collecting the information from the sector expert to then present to you at the meeting and to Sue, right, and Tom, and to go over do these align with what we're finding for the town standards. That's just a template for what Hyde Park used. That's not what we're recommending whatsoever. Again, we're in the process of collecting, and then the recommendations we would present for the town to choose based on the sector expert feedback that we're getting.
All right, just want to say thank you, Cassandra and Shyla. Any other questions could be directed to Sue and staff. And we're looking forward for the next meeting with you to get some more input to see where you're at. And
I'm sorry about the timing. It's always when my youth council meets, but I'm happy to watch it later.
No, that's fine. I mean,
Thank you for all your work on the town plan. I know it's a big lift for all of you. So I'm glad you guys are close to the finish line with the rest of it.
Absolutely. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right, Sue. So I guess we're now next to 6:30 now. So next now is the 2026 town plan.
Announcements.
Oh,
I
announcements.
have 2 announcements.
Sue, do you have 2 announcements?
Yeah, I have 2 announcements. The first is that Brattleboro applied for we received the bronze award from the League of American Bicyclists. So it has to do with our infrastructure and our facilities and our plans for making biking easier, more accessible. I can share more information on it with you in that award, but it was a application that we worked with BCAT, Brattleboro Coalition of Active Transportation, to submit and get ranked. The last time we did it was, I think, maybe 2 years ago. We were honorable mention, so we've made a little progress, but they do have some recommendations for us, and I'd be happy to share those at another time. And then the other announcement I have is that the planning department has a project to study Black Mountain Road. It's next to the Crosby Brook. We have had lots of washouts on it. And so the project we're looking at is actually looking at maybe reducing its classification and having it just for pedestrians and bicyclists, more like a trail. There's some infrastructure there that needs to be protected. So we have a scoping study. There's going to be a meeting on March 19th. It's a Zoom meeting. And I'll send information out for anybody that's interested. It's just a department project, and it has to deal with our transportation and infrastructure and climate change and all of that. So I'll send that around.
Okay, all right, so,
For me.
was there another thing coming up at work, some other thing you mentioned, a workshop somewhere? No.
Oh, Gary and I were talking about before the meeting, there's some, the 802 homes, kind of the states initiative, to increase the number of housing units. There's gonna be a workshop in June. I think I had sent that all out to you. Anybody that might be interested in creating new units, creating an accessory dwelling unit, there's gonna be a 2-day workshop on how to do that. So.
Awesome, okay. Moving along to the 2026 town plan, review of the first draft in town plan. Sue, I guess you'll expound more on that.
Yes, still pretty rough. I've got lots of
Rough
comments. What I sent to you, so Steve's done a lot of work on mapping, but I did all send you a couple of weeks ago kind of a compiled draft of the different sections of the plan that we have to date, as well as, and in their last iteration, so some had been updated since you last saw it, like land use did not have any updates yet. And what we did was ask if you had time to look through it to provide any of your comments. I did receive some from Tom that I put into the matrix that you got in your packet. And I was hoping that we could go through those. Maybe you could give staff some direction on how you want them handled for the next draft, and so we'll pump out another draft for the April meeting. And then if you have any comments that you wanted to add in reading over these chapters.
So I'm wondering if everybody's already went over, read the draft, checked it over, any questions, any discussion?
I think, Gary, it might make sense to kind of at least start by the topic areas in the matrix.
Okay.
So we can kind of go off, starting with land use, and then if commissioners have more to add or we want to talk, give direction based on Tom's comments, and if you've got more to add, then we can do that.
Did you want to, I don't want to read Tom's comments that he left, and then we could just proceed, and then anyone else can add or speak into that along the way.
Does that make sense to all of you?
Is that okay with everybody? Do Tom's comments while he's not, and then we'll just go along with that from there.
So these comments are in addition to what's already in that matrix?
No. Well, if you have more that you want to add, I'll take them now.
No, I was just like, oh my goodness, there's already so many. I hope this is not in addition to. Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
No, it's the matrix
Yeah,
comments.
it's the matrix.
Yeah. So we'll give this a shot. Maybe it can go quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Tom had a few
So
pointers.
his first comment was that the 2018 plan talked a lot about, having access to the waterfront, and that wasn't discussed in this plan. I think we talked about this at the last meeting. I think everybody was kind of in alignment that we should address that in the next draft. I'm comfortable with that. I think it did kind of get dropped off, but it is still a top priority. So whether it's the Connecticut River, whether it's the West River, even, access along the West Stone Brook, so for recreation and whatnot. So, do I have some head nods on that? Okay. The second comment has to do with the future land use map. I might bring this up. So his concern is that the map is, seems pretty parcel specific, instead of, and I know, Dan, we've had some comments about that. You've had some concerns. It is, sorry, I'm just trying to share. It is a future land use map. I've seen it done this way frequently, where it is kind of, where it is kind of, drawn in there. If you want to give us direction to go another way, we'll do our best on that. There you go, there's the map. We could take off the parcel lines, that's one thing we could do. The other one was kind of blurry along the edges. I don't know if the mapping software is if we could do that as easily, but thoughts about the map. So the future land use kind of guides future zoning. It is not a zoning map. So I think that's where the tension over, if you snap it to the parcel lines, does it make it seem more like a zoning map? So.
Yeah, and I will say this splits lots fairly frequently, given site-specific context. So while it does often follow parcel lines, and sometimes parcel lines do follow natural constraints as well, there are a lot of places where we are cutting along a steep slope or a body of water or some other more natural constraint, and not simply the parcel lines. So we weren't just looking at how many parcels away from a main road are we going to go. It was more based on objective characteristics, but I see how it can have the appearance of being driven by property lines.
Is there a way overall to soften and curve the lines? Or even if we took out the parcel boundaries, would it still appear, very angular?
I mean, if we were going to be sort of reinventing the wheel here and going based on, like if we were going to say everything that's within, say a 500-foot buffer of a paved road.
No, I heard you say reinventing the wheel, so you can ignore my comment. That's fine. Looks good to me.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, Dan?
Yeah, thanks. I guess I have a question about the conservation category, just to pick one. I mean, that one stands out to me. First off, I see some, but I don't see much. And I guess I'm wondering if you're accessing land trust, if you're considering land that has been, forgive me, let's say co-deeded or something with a land trust in the conservation category.
So I'm gonna let Steve answer that.
So
The mapping.
we have that data. We're aware of that data. In some cases, yes, but the agriculture and forestry category, as far as we're using what the state Act 181, I believe it is, defined as the various categories as what we used for ours. And so that is not precluding what we would all probably think of as conservation as well. So you have a lot of land in those areas that's deeded with conservation restrictions for farmland or for forest land or other kinds of conservation. And we know where they are. In some cases, we've gone and deliberately included them in conservation. Like you can see the few parcels that are east of 91 near the downtown. That's one of them is, I think, Solar Hill, and then there's one behind it. And then we have a few that are town properties that we know we don't intend to see any kind of development on. Whereas some of these, they might be in current use, which allows for them to potentially have a piece come out and be like a homestead where there is actually a buildable spot, and we don't intend to have that be precluded. I don't think there's immediate like triggers for the change to Act 250 jurisdiction by showing it in the dark green here, but that that category in the state's new land use review scheme, I believe, would be reviewed with a lot more scrutiny than other types of conservation. So we've set aside some of the places that we really expect to see basically no non-recreation development as that specifically. And we've kept the other ones where it's more flexible, what kind of low intensity road use seems appropriate.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So is the conservation, I guess the general sense of conservation is not what you're applying here. Is that correct? I guess what is this conservation category?
So this conservation is like, we actually don't want to see any residential development that it, could be for low intensity trail use. So what you're looking at, like along the West River, that is an area that is actually mapped as, having significant habitat. I think, we've also got like the Pleasant Valley Reservoir in there, which is not going to be developed.
Right. I'm actually not as concerned. I think the dark green rural conservation category looks pretty clear to me. I'm just
Okay.
honestly not clear about the mustard yellow conservation category.
Oh.
I think this might be an older version of that.
Yeah, that's an error.
That was, that's coming out. So
Sorry about that.
the dark green will just say conservation because some of them we didn't feel like are particularly rural. So that's where we break with the state in how we're labeling that. But yeah, that's a duplicate. You can feel free to ignore that.
Sorry.
So then I guess, so you were saying, Steve, that you have the data for conservation restriction land trust type conservation, right? Like, and that's not going to go on this map.
No.
Okay, gotcha.
So back to the question of the mapping, is the planning commission at this point okay with the mapping? Do you want us to take parcel lines off, like any of that? We can always revisit it in the next draft, that Tom feels strongly.
I don't feel like the parcel lines add very much to what we're seeing. So I would be in favor of getting rid of the parcel lines, but I don't feel very strongly about it if other people feel differently.
I would keep them just for the sake of people orienting themselves, I guess, on the map. I don't, as long as, I suppose this is like as long as this is not meant to be a sort of like sending a message to those property owners like, hey, you know what I mean? It's, as long as it's purely guide oriented, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Unless I hear strong.
Yeah, I agree with Dan.
So you feel that in the room, everyone feels comfortable, or?
Yeah, I think for
Okay.
now, we're gonna leave the map as is,
Okay.
and we'll see it in the next version, and, yeah. And nothing we do here tonight is bunting either.
Right.
So, number 3 is, mapped transition infill areas should be planned growth. So this actually is the orange you were talking about. It's north of the roundabout. We labeled it conservation just in there. That's the transition area, and we talked about that at the last meeting, and I'm fine if we moved that into the planned growth area, so. If anybody is opposed to that, let us know, otherwise we'll move that in.
That's the strip north of exit 3?
Yes,
Yeah.
on the west side of Putney Road.
So you're planning on moving that to the planned growth area?
Yes.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
Housing, I think a lot of these comments, does anybody have anything else on land use that wasn't on this?
Well, is it possible to make the map a little larger? Because I'm having a hard time reading it.
You can zoom in.
I am, but my computer's crappy and this is better. Oh, thank you. Yes, I know.
There we go.
And it not even just the map, if you have any, anything else about the chapter, if you took a look at it, if you wanna revisit it.
Additions or subtractions.
What's the, first block, is that in that chapter? That map, the first block, yeah, that's that.
I can't recall if we put that in land use or in natural
I
resources,
think it's
but
in it. Okay.
it's in there, so if they wanted to take a look at it, if they had comments.
All right, Dan.
Yeah, could we talk a little bit about the municipal utilities map? I guess I'm just curious about one aspect of it.
We can. Let's see, did you guys see the change of the map, or do I have to? You got it, okay. So.
Oh, wait, I'm looking at the wrong document. Hang on a second.
She's got it up on the screen there too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't know about your thoughts on this, but I guess I'm curious if you would or could or should include the accessibility in Guilford and Dummerston.
I don't believe we go into Dummerston. We do.
That's why I'm wondering. Actually, I don't know because it looks like it borders right at the top there.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious if it's actually stopping at the town line.
Is that the spillover?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think it goes into Dummerston, but it is possible down Old Ferry Road that it does, so I'm gonna need to check that. That's never come up for me before, but it does go into Guilford for sure.
Yeah, I know that part. So I was wondering, should that just be put in the bottom of the map? Not that it's obviously not Brattleboro, but interesting nonetheless that the system extends.
Is that mappable maybe? I mean, I think we need to think about that a little bit. I mean, yes, it seems to make sense to map it because it's our system and it goes into there, but probably not. But it also doesn't mean that it's necessarily available to them, but.
Yeah, that's why I don't know, but that looks interesting that it could go as far as distance wise go into Dummerston, I guess.
Can we get back to you on that? Can we?
Yeah. I just figured, if you don't want to do it, that's fine too, and they can map it themselves. but I guess it may as well be in there, and it's interesting along 142 as well, not just the Algiers, direction. I guess I would like that would be kind of interesting, but that's just my own curiosity, I guess.
Yeah, I think regardless of whether we map it or not, I think we want to make sure that it's mentioned in the plan. And over the years, and actually in Tom's comments, there is some, the idea has been floated that maybe we should extend to Hinsdale, and particularly like in the Georges Field area, and maybe there could be housing development, and that would benefit our downtown. So he gets into that in a comment. So that could be interesting to consider.
And that spills over the further.
I mean, it's a great example of where you could start talking at least about neighboring towns. It's just one great issue. Yeah.
So even if we, like I said, if we don't map it, we can at least make sure we touch on it. All right. Let's move on to the housing ones, and I feel like a lot of these were discussed, so I don't know how much we need to get into them, but there might be some that weren't. So number 4 is include a specific policy and action about promoting, incentivizing, helping, unobstructing any and all types of low-cost, simple, and/or unconventional homes. For example, SROs. The SROs we've already talked about. I think I, want to be careful about how we frame any unconventional. I mean, I think SROs are conventional, but I'm not exactly sure what Tom has in mind, but I get what he's getting at.
Yeah, just thinking back to that discussion in the notes, I believe you said something about Tom wanted it to be more generalized or broadened, or and that's a good question what the word for that would be, but
But we can certainly work on policies and actions if that's something. It was kind of like what was discussed at the last meeting, so we'll just move forward on that. Number 5 is to encourage downsizing, creating apartment, ADUs, and home sharing. And I think this was kind of discussed at one of the meetings as well. That's fine, we can have a policy or something that supports that as well. I mean, the downsizing is a little bit interesting because not everybody wants to downsize, so I think it's just being sure that there's a broad range of options, which I think our zoning does do, and we can at least draw that out. Are there any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned downsizing and up, well, it all depends on the current market, the current lot of different variables in that, so should we leave our options open with that? I guess that's further discussion to see.
I mean, the thing with downsizing, and some of it is it's personal choice.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that we'd have some sort of incentive for people to downsize and move out.
Right.
So that one's a little bit more difficult to address, I think, than creating apartments or accessory dwelling units. Anything else there?
Yeah, I'm not totally clear what that means, encourage downsizing.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, my guess, typically when I hear downsizing, it has to do with people who have large homes, basically encouraging them to move out of those homes and free them up for other people.
Yeah, I mean, that would be how I would read it myself. What I'm confused about is then, okay, well, what do you want us to do about it?
Right.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that. I guess even when Tom gets back to see how that categorizes what downsizing looks like, or what does it mean, and to what extent. I think that's a bigger discussion, I guess, down the road we can discuss because of today's current climate, as they say. So I think that's something that just needs more interpretation on that. So maybe we can wait until like that month until he gets back. Or if anyone feels they can add to that, see their interpretation.
Well, I mean, I could make up all kinds of stuff. So
Got a whole bag full of it.
yeah.
So Dan.
I mean, I mention this because I really see the downsizing thing as more of a financial problem, and I'm not sure that it's necessarily something that should go into the town plan, although I don't see why it can't. But it's kind of like, it's wishful thinking. We should have a program, to provide financing for people who would be better off living in a smaller place, but find it financially impossible to leave where they are now.
Incentivizing, I guess, in a sense, to encouraging.
I think the best thing we can do is make sure that there's a wide amount of options of housing, so that if people want to.
Which is exactly why I say I'm not sure that this is something that really needs to be addressed in the town plan, other than encouraging the growth of housing.
Yep, I agree.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
I guess this is a question for, I think, Steve or Sue, you could comment on this. I guess specifically in the housing tenure section, which is well named, I like it. I think I'd want some context if I didn't know much about housing. I'm just thinking context is always a good thing. So that, for example, just the mentioning of the owner occupied or 50.7% of all housing units. I would contextualize that and say that that's actually low. The national is 65%. And so we are depending on how you look at it, you could say we are a we're tenure balanced, right? We are 50-50 split pretty much, although that's not typical, um, especially for small towns. But I'm just, but I don't know how much you want to get into context.
Actually, Steve pointed out in the paragraph right before that stat, we do say, I mean, maybe we could hit on a little harder. We could bullet it, we could
I'm
draw it
sorry.
out in the beginning, in the introduction.
Okay.
But yeah,
I may have missed it, and I apologize if I did. I just
yeah.
in that section though, it's kind of maybe even a footnote. I know you're not necessarily using notes in this, but something that kind of gives someone something else to look at, maybe that if they're interested. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that I could see that as like a pie chart,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
maybe visually seeing it or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and compare it, and you could compare that to maybe other towns or other uh, or national average or whatever. But and I do apologize if I missed the. Where is that? Did you say it's at the top there?
What's that, Dan? Sorry.
Did you say the context information is at the top somewhere?
Oh, the first. So you were quoting the as of the 2020 census thing, but if you look, the very first sentence in that under housing tenure, Brattleboro's rate of rental housing is
Significantly
significantly
high.
higher.
Yes, yes. Okay. Right. So, well, significance is always a relative term, right? So we want to say how significant or give actual numbers. That's kind of, yeah, I did see that. Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah. And that's absolutely correct. I guess I don't know if you really want to point out we're actually 15% below, right? Like as far as owner occupied, and that some towns have like, 85%, owner occupied. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Right.
so that's just kind of, but I don't know how, but yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. I don't know how specific you want to get. Yeah.
Gemma.
Yeah, I just want to add to that I think it would be very useful to break out the difference in statistics between the Brattleboro CDP and the town of Brattleboro, because there is a very, very big difference. In Brattleboro CDP, the rental rate is about 65%.
What do you, by breaking it out, I know that there's a big difference, like what are you trying to get at there? Is it yeah.
Well, to emphasize the fact that the people who are living in the most densely populated areas of the town are by and large not homeowners.
Yeah. And Gemma, if I may point out, you're right on the money there. The thing is that's not atypical. In fact, if it's 65%, I'd be surprised. I don't know the numbers, but in a downtown area, typically has very low ownership, owner occupied, let's say.
Yeah,
Yeah, and in some larger town, I mean, let's say cities, the larger you get, the less that is true.
yes.
Property management or,
So yeah, so I don't know if that's different. I think Brattleboro
yeah.
is different in the sense of the general split.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, good point.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so Tom, number 6, suggested that we add a statement that the data shows that short-term rentals are not a significant pressure on Brattleboro at this time, and that's fine. We can add something that short-term rentals always comes up, so we can add a sentence or two.
Do we have a source for that data?
We have in the past, we used AirDNA, right?
I think we used the publicly available source, which I believe is coming from that is compiled at housingdata.org, which I believe is the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, I think is the A. So that was probably over a year ago at this point, but we had put out, I think maybe even 2 times this came up in the past, maybe one of them was when we were asked to speak to the select board about it. Forgetting now, but there have been some documents that the department has put out on that, so I'm sure we can take a bite-sized piece of that and put it in here.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that if a statement gets added to the plan to that effect, that there's actually some source data for it that to back it up.
Is that also the same under with Airbnbs as well, or just?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the same. And I mean, I think because it keeps coming up, I mean, I think it's something that, you know, occasionally we look at, but, you know, the planning commission, when we last discussed it, felt like the numbers weren't high. We don't have the resort town problem, and that it actually can be a way that either people can stay in their homes or potentially, you know, get to a point where they don't have to do that anymore because they can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not concerned about people who are renting out a room in their house as a short-term rental. I'm concerned about investors coming in and buying up apartments who do not live on site. So.
And that's not just a short-term rental.
Yeah.
Thing though.
I don't think we've seen an example necessarily of it happening in Brattleboro. Yeah, the last time we checked, the data that we were looking at was collected on a zip code level, and so when we actually went and looked on Airbnb, Verbo, etc., all the major ones we could think of, pretty much at least 3/4 of the listings were in the other towns that share 05301. So it was even less significant of a problem than what we would have been led to believe from the graph itself.
And did we mention also, I guess, senior transitional home?
Transitional, we talked about the last time. I think we're going to beef that up a little bit, but yeah. Bonnie Scudder here.
No, Bonnie, sorry.
Well, here at Morningside, we do have a number of owners who own multiple units who do not live here. I don't know if that matters, but it matters to us at Morningside, because if we end up having too many rental units, we will no longer be a condo complex. We would have to become an apartment complex. There's a certain percentage that have to be owner occupied to be a condo complex.
Interesting.
It's FYI. I don't know if that matters, but.
Now, does that fall in the same purview like with Tri-Park? You own, people looking more for ownership, you know, and having that. Is that something that's also considered to how many?
Tri-Park is a housing cooperative. They do, I think, end up having some rentals in there, but
like
but it's primarily owner.
Owner, oh, I forget what it was. I have to look it up.
Owner occupied.
Owner occupied, but they have their own.
They own their house.
Right.
They lease the land. At
Okay.
Tri-Park Cooperative.
And that's at Westgate?
Westgate, I think, is true. It's a cooperative.
Yes.
I don't know that they own their units.
Yeah, Westgate's all rental units, I believe. But
Oh, they're all rent, okay.
Yeah.
Now we got Dan's hand. Go ahead, Dan.
sorry to jump in there. Yeah, I guess I have a question about the recovery housing section. It's rather short, and I don't know if you wanted to add to it that we did have recovery housing in Brattleboro in the past. I don't know if that matters. But it must have been in previous town plans that we did have, like Phoenix House. No,
I don't think we addressed it in the last town plan.
No.
So, I mean, it's exactly like, you know, where do we draw the line? I don't want it to just be like this historical like thing. It's like, we need it. We know we need it. It's not here.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if it, because it's, I mean, you're pointing out the lack thereof. And I don't know what's the purpose of that little section there?
So that if there is going to be recovery housing in Brattleboro, that the town is supportive of it because it's a need.
you're stating that it's important, period. It's like, it's important. If we had it, it would be important. It's not, we don't have it, but it's important.
It's a need in the community, so we should be supportive of recovery housing if it comes to Brattleboro. I mean, maybe we could go further, but
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems a little like, I believe it's only two sentences. Not that I'm not criticizing by the way. I'm just wondering, like, is there something more that could be fleshed out? Um,
I think something like that might be, great to look into. Also, with the transitions out with homes and things.
I could probably beef that up a little bit.
I mean, there are a lot of, and you could, I'm just, again, context, but you could point out how difficult it is and the reason, perhaps maybe if there's any background not background, but like historical background, but like background in terms of, you know, explaining why we don't have recovery housing, but not going so far as to get into the nitty gritty,
Mhm. Yep. Okay, I can work on that a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So Tom had mentioned having a statement that we're ahead of the pack on housing. We can put that in the introduction. I don't know if that's what he means is in terms of our regulations and encouraging and stuff like that. So we can add a sentence or concluding statement, whatever, about the work that we're doing. I don't have a problem with that. And I think he wanted, and I know we talked about this when we talked about housing, and it just hasn't been incorporated, but kind of pulling out some of those key data points. And so this one is that, we're over the last 10 years, we're seeing predominantly multi-unit. So do that. And then number 9, he says an action or at least a statement that as long as there are homeless people camping in Brattleboro and not enough housing units, to be open to discussion and thinking about allowed locations.
Sorry, so could you repeat that, or the last part of what you just said?
The last part, he said, as long as there's homeless people camping in Brattleboro and not enough housing units, that we should be open to discussion and thinking about allowed locations for camping. So he's suggesting an action or a statement. So
For allowable allowable locations for something.
Yeah.
I think that was brought up, I think at, one of the meetings recently about where can that be? I think we talked about it too, along with the others, like one of the other people. Where's that place? Where can you put that type of existing dwelling people? I don't know if that's something, we could look further.
Oh, does the planning commission?
That's the question. Does the planning commission want to
I don't want to
pursue
stick something in the plan and think that, staff's just going to do it, or
yeah. Well, we have a
and similarly, this gets adopted by the select board. So,
right.
Is this something you want to?
This didn't come up in the public input period either, as far as I'm aware. So I think that should probably have strong support from the commissioners if it's actually going to be something that moves forward.
That's a thought. Gemma, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to say that that is something that I support very strongly. However, I do recognize that this is a very contentious issue in this town, and I would be very open to a statement to the effect that it is something that the town should consider. I don't know that it should be something that is listed in the town plan that says Brattleboro should do this. I don't think that's going to go over very well.
So a statement rather than an action step, or
yeah. I mean, we've discussed this many times at select board meetings just in the last couple of months. And there's obviously been absolutely no move on the select board to do anything about it. And, that's their prerogative. I disagree with it, but, I think this is a harm reduction strategy that the town ought to consider, but we can't even begin to consider it without support for developing, even beginning to develop any kind of information on where we could possibly permit encampments.
To me, this falls into Tom's comment number 4, the one about unconventional. So, I mean, I feel like if you're going to be adding or making more clear something around that comment, that this is appropriate in that place
Well, I would say to that
as being another type of housing, essentially.
Yeah, but I mean, Liz McLaughlin made a very, strong statement about the fact that this permitted encampments are not housing, and I agree with her on that. However, that does not reduce the need for permitted encampments. Yeah, they shouldn't be considered housing. It's not a solution. I mean, it's not a final
Solution.
A long-term solution to housing people. Right. But it is a short-term fix for the fact that we are spending an awful lot of money and going to an awful lot of trouble trying to police the encampments that already exist. So,
well, I guess that brings up an interesting question about the title of the chapter, which I don't think we necessarily need to get into now, but the difference between housing and shelter. Camping is definitely a type of shelter, but it may not be a type of housing. Right. And is the chapter only about housing, or is it about how the community provides shelter? So just maybe future food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, this might be too elegant of a solution, but statute calls it housing, so that's what we've called it. The community health and wellness, I think, does. I thought one of the areas that they were going to look at. No, I guess not. But could be looking at sheltering.
So a campground would be considered or a designated area because that's what the state and everyone was looking into to set aside a place for where. And a lot of say, where do we camp out?
I don't think the state's looking at to set aside.
Oh, well, someone was.
Yeah, no, state is not.
Well,
no.
That's probably something we should talk with our legislators. But moving along. Yeah.
Is there support for kind of a statement like Gemma had kind of framed it?
Good question.
At least in the next version, to see something that suggests that we should be, it's something that should be considered by the town.
I think that the town should be considering all options for sheltering people. I'm personally not really thrilled with the word encampment. I feel like that's a little derogatory, maybe, but I like the idea of the town considering all options for sheltering people.
I wouldn't even look at it for something like a commune or someplace where they can. I'm an old 70s person back in the days with the hippie, so I don't know if that can be considered. Somewhere like people set aside land and they purchase it, they decide to live on it, grow their own stuff, but that's a thought.
Well, that's allowed, bet.
Yeah, so that might be something you can filter in there.
All right, well, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
I think I'll work on a statement for it.
Were you asking, should you craft a statement regarding this suit?
Yeah, does the planning commission want it? I think Steve is exactly right. It's not what we heard from public engagement, but right. It has been a topic of conversation in town. So, from our perspective, having the planning commission wanting to be on board with it. So when we take it to the select board, this is something the planning commission supports. I mean, it's just it's going to be a sentence or so that deals with sheltering.
If I could suggest,
I'm perfectly happy to have, let's say, a straw poll or a vote of some sort, but I guess I figure that's just a, if that's a question, we don't have to do that, but we could have a discussion of whether or not I would, as you may already glean, I am saying no, that you shouldn't put such a statement in there, but that's, that would be my one vote.
we could potentially do this rather than a statement that's taking a stance. We could simply say that the topic has been raised, that there may be a need for XYZ, that would avoid anyone needing to necessarily commit to a particular position.
Topic discussed, and that it's an obvious issue.
But we'll flag it for next time. You'll see something and you can say yes or no.
Right, it's an obvious issue that's not gonna go away anytime soon, but moving along.
All right. Transportation, we're switching to transportation now. There's a policy and an action that talks about bike racks, and Tom's suggesting we change that to storage to preserve the encouragement of long-term storage. So I think that's fine. If you want to love that chapter.
I don't see any reason to remove racks from that sentence. We can simply say racks and storage.
Okay. So it's installed bicycle racks in public spaces throughout the community is what the action is. So it would read.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Installed bicycle racks and storage in public spaces. Anything else on that one? So then comment 11 is that we're required to have a map, and that's something that Steve has been working on. So you'll see that next time. We know there's a required map. 12, his suggestion is to include key findings of the parking study. So we did a downtown parking study in 2017. That's when the data is from. I think I'm a little probably agnostic about this point. I think that some of the data, it identified kind of using parking counts where there is some issues with not enough parking, and like one of the areas was kind of the courthouse area at that time, but now a lot of court is done online, so there's not as many conflicts in that area anymore. And then definitely the Depot Street area, kind of down by the bridge, that there's some parking challenges there. But I'm worried it's a little bit older and the parking system has changed, and I don't know how relevant it is to bring that in, other than maybe to say we know that there's some parking issues down there.
The overall takeaway too from that one, which existed in a pre-COVID reality that I don't think we've seen foot traffic necessarily exceed either. So I think we can assume that it is at least as true as the takeaway that they had in 2017 or 18. Was that other than those two spots, and I think there was one segment of Main Street for 1 hour of a weekend day that actually did get to 90 plus or even 100 plus occupancy, that everything else was below the threshold that they used to determine like perceived full, what you would drive by and think, oh, there's no spots, was like 80-85%. And they found that we basically didn't have that happen except for those very localized situations that we may have resolved. But if there was a piece from that just says, we have enough parking downtown broadly, in a more artful way, that could maybe be good material for not paving more of off-street parking, which, I mean, I know we have the zoning controls against, but it would be nice, I think, to have a specific piece of language that just mentions that we have adequate parking in our downtown.
Yeah, I would be strongly skeptical of relying on any data that is pre-2020 in pretty much any field at this point. The pandemic had such a profound effect on our society, and transportation is one area where it definitely did have a very strong effect.
So, shall we stay silent, or do you want a couple of the high hits from that?
The only thing that I would say that it might be useful to mention that the last time a parking study was done was 2017, and that we might need a new one.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That seems relevant.
Okay.
I mean, we are talking about 9 years now, so.
Lots changed.
Okay. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
All right. So he requested transportation demographics such as car usage trends, bus, bike,
What other
and I don't know that we have really good data on that.
Other modes of
Think
transportation.
sources like, I mean, if it's ACS,
Right.
Yeah.
American Community Survey, not really great for rural areas.
Right. Yeah, I think those things have been kicked to the ACS. I think maybe they, through 2000, were doing them in the actual census, which I would have no qualms about using. But now, yeah, those, even at the 5-year, like, aggregated, and even at the county level, it's still below the 50,000 person threshold that they think is like particularly robust for ACS. So like, especially if we were just doing town level, the range of the margin of error on really any of the things that we see is huge. So it would be hard to know that they were representative at all. But we could try to find census type data.
I think that's the best we can do is see what we can find. I think there might be some in the walk bike action plan. And you know, when we wrote the Canal Street, there is some interesting car ownership information, particularly in the CDP. We actually are pretty high in not having car ownership, so you know, for Vermont and maybe comparing to other places, I can't remember if you did that. So we can definitely bring some in. It tells a story about our community. Could be good.
Now, with increasing housing that are going up, there will be some more. Do we need additional information? Because you're gonna have, was it Winston Prouty? I don't know, and a couple of other places adding additional housing. Do we need to do another survey for that?
No.
Okay.
About housing or about bike needs or?
Well, yeah, the needs for bike needs, transportation.
Or the, like traffic studies or that
Yes.
kind of thing? I mean, that'll be on a case by case.
Okay.
I mean, Winston Prouty did do one, as that moves forward, it might need to be updated.
Oh,
I think actually looking at off-site traffic impacts from development,
okay.
I think I added that in the land use section because, you know, that is something that's looked at in Act 250, and if we get delegation of that or, you know, take it over, then that's an area we're gonna need to improve on. So, having developers pay for those off-site costs. This one for discussion, an action to keep sidewalks clear year-round via the sidewalk plow and or improve ordinance to clarify and enforce property owners' responsibilities. So, real briefly, in Brattleboro, if you are in the downtown improvement district, you have a certain amount of time, I think it's like 24 hours, maybe it might even be less, once a storm is over to clear your sidewalks. So that's the responsibility of property owners. If you're outside of the downtown improvement district, if there's a sidewalk plow route, it doesn't cover all the sidewalks in town. There's no requirement for property owners to clear sidewalks in front of their property. And so, I've had some thoughts about that over the years and kind of broached that, particularly from a traffic safety committee perspective. And there's concerns if you had an ordinance where people were required to shovel, that's not necessarily equitable to somebody who might be older or somebody who works, night shift and is sleeping during the day. So anyway, does the planning commission want to take this up? It's a big, it's not as simple actually. So, if you're talking about expanding the sidewalk plow routes, it might mean more equipment, more staff. So there's cost there.
Well, even with the owners of the building, like with ice and stuff, falling ice, that was another big issue too.
Yeah.
Who's cleaning that? Who takes care of that building? And that's something that, Dick DeGray, I think, brought up about people cleaning in front of their business. But it was just a thought.
But that's the downtown there.
Yes, in the business district. Oh, I'm sorry, Lindsay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that it can be a little more general. I do think that this statement is really important in no small part because my husband brought it to the Traffic Safety Committee a while back. But I think that it could be more general as, Brattleboro maintaining its pedestrian infrastructure year-round for safe travel, and that a step underneath that could be considering expanding the sidewalk plow routes. From what I understand, this is an issue also of gender equity. More women are likely to be using and walking on sidewalks, whereas we prioritize street clearing instead of sidewalks. And, I think that's valid and something that we should be considering.
I think also for people.
And it falls more generally, I think, under the other issues that we've come across in here about maintaining our infrastructure. And I know that sidewalks keep coming up again and again, so.
Right, you come up with people with disabilities who I've come to couple to the traffic safety things about, moving around downtown in those, places aren't shoveled, the accessibility, which is a big thing, and I think that's a major factor involved with that. That's something we really need to factor and consider for people and tourists coming as well too. I'm sorry, go ahead, Gemma.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I very, very strongly support this. In fact, it's probably one of the things that I would support most strongly of anything. As someone who uses the sidewalks year round and who rides a bicycle year round, I would also like to see specific emphasis added there that snow should be removed from all bicycle parking facilities, which is a constant problem in this town. It has been the last 10 years that I've lived here. I complain about it periodically, and very little gets done about it. I remember the first year that I moved here, the first time that I walked downtown, I thought I need to get crampons for my boots and carry trekking poles in order to keep from killing myself. I am partially disabled. I have a completely wrecked right knee from a skating crash that happened just before I moved here. And my mother is paraplegic now. But she has suffered from multiple sclerosis for about the past 40 years. And she is now planning on moving here with me. So she's a full-time power wheelchair user. And I feel very strongly that disabled people have every bit as much a right to use the outdoors in winters as the rest of us who can get around on 2 feet. And I think that ordinance should definitely be expanded outside of the Downtown Improvement District. I actually was not aware that it only covered the Downtown Improvement District. I thought it covered the entire town. And I do see, the issues with, if you extend that into all residential areas, that there are going to be some people who do not have the ability to remove snow themselves. However, one of the responsibilities of being a property owner is that you have to, take responsibility for the land that you occupy and exclude other people from. Maybe we need to develop ways of helping people who cannot shovel snow themselves. I'm very much in support of buying more sidewalk plows. I'm sure they're very expensive, so I'm sure that's probably not going to happen. But it would be lovely to have them. I did live for 2 years right on Canal Street, 2 doors up from the co-op, and it was very nice to have the sidewalk plow come by and do that for us if they came by before we got to it. So. Yeah, I've never lived in a place before where it was not the responsibility of the property owner to remove snow from public sidewalks and other areas of public access. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Bonnie?
Yeah, I have a sister, Gary, Catherine, who's 82. She lives on High Street and she has to go walking out, and she's disabled. And a lot of the sidewalks aren't really cleared properly. And then when the plow comes by, it often pushes snow back up onto the sidewalk. So I know there's been many times when she's actually had to walk in the street to get to the senior center where she works. So I think it's an issue, and I think that we have to be really, really clear about the fact that this needs to be done properly. And there are companies that go around with their little sidewalk plows. Maybe we need to hire one of them to finish off what, isn't being done properly in town.
All right, that's clear. Next is something to help Greyhound, or some sort of statement about Greyhound moving to downtown. So right now, Greyhound picks up on Canal Street at a gas station, and I've heard this from several people. It would be great if Greyhound stopped at the transportation center or downtown.
Oh, they
More
used
accessible for people.
I used to see them at the gas station near the roundabout.
They used to be on exit 1.
Okay. That's the thing. There's no knowledge of that posted anywhere in town. That you take the Greyhound, whatever less to go to Keene or wherever. So.
So we can try if that sounds. Sure. We can add something. Gemma?
Encourage.
Yeah, it's an encouragement.
Yeah, I honestly did not know that Greyhound even had a stop in Brattleboro. And I find myself wondering, why isn't it at the transportation center? I'm a very strong supporter of intercity bus lines. They have been dying out for a long time in our country, but for a lot of people, they are the only accessible means of long-distance transportation. So,
I was wondering how come whenever the Amtrak is done, I'm used to having the buses and stuff like, you got Penn Station, you got Grand Central, to be connected together. Even at the transport, but people have that accessibility versus way up the hill, way on the other side. So I think accessibility would be a factor to consider if we're willing to get like a Greyhound station or whatever set up in that area for people to get picked up, or down to I mean, that's what the reason why we have a transportation center for transportation.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, that's something.
I think I can tell you with a fair degree of confidence why they simply can't turn onto Main.
Oh,
or
yeah.
not without.
Good point. But you can't come out of
The
with the
mover does
Amtrak.
it.
They'd be taking a huge risk going through.
Trying to think which way the mover goes, but.
Well, I mean, from the transportation center on Flat Street. That would be.
They all go out Elm Street though, and then up Canal.
True. Yeah, no, it's possible with a creative way of doing it, but
yeah, they turn around in Preston lot.
Yeah.
Well, an associated idea might be not just to request that they move it downtown, but that Brattleboro figure out a way to help Greyhound connect better with people who would be more easily served downtown. So that could include the mover doing timed runs to meet the Greyhound bus, for example. I think there's more possibilities than just having them move their stop that the town might be able to have more control over too. I don't know how easy it is to make Greyhound do anything, but
you would have to have, now, would that be a cost for the minibuses to transport people to?
that's complicated too.
Ah.
I mean, ideally, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the fact that a full-size motor coach might not be able to make that turn. However, I can say that they definitely can get into the Amtrak parking lot.
That was good. Yeah, that's a good one. Yep.
Yeah, I've had to take the bus from there when they were doing the track work, and so they shuttled us down to, I think it was Greenfield.
Well, here's the thing, Sasasimo's trucks make it around that corner now very good.
Yep.
So imagine the bus coming up.
Well, they
Street.
do Elm Street. That's why
Right.
that intersection is so wide because of their trucks.
Yeah, and these guys are, I mean, their size of theirs and the wood, I mean, about the same size, I think. But yeah, I would say going in that direction as far as that, because everyone has that, except they could just jump from the train to that. But that's just thought.
Yeah. All right, let's move on because I feel like we're not moving so fast. Discourage new road, streets unless densely, thoughtfully used. I mean, we're not seeing that level of development. We actually don't take over new roads unless requested and there's a development agreement, and we don't always take them over when they're requested. I'm not sure this is something that.
It also has seemed to me in the E911 side, like many developers are actually sensitive to the threshold between something being a driveway that might need a name but isn't a road as far as our zoning would require it. And so it seems like what we require already as far as what they would need to build out, even as a private road, functionally is pretty much binding on a lot of low density or small development. So I don't know that we need to do anything more to specifically encourage or discourage change, because it seems like it's affecting their decisions without us needing to be involved.
Can I ask a question? When again is this plan supposed to be like wrapped up and sent to select board?
Well, so it expires mid-May.
Okay.
So I think that we'll have it in hearing. Like, there's not a lot of risk.
No, I just meant that I think we have done an admirable job of getting through 16 of Tom's comments, but I believe there are over 50. And I'm just not, I don't know, that is going to take another 6 meetings or something. But I don't have a solution. I'm just noting the fact. I don't know how.
I know, I'm sitting here, how can I move this along?
There are so many.
Either way, we're going to get through them all.
There are so many of them. I don't know if maybe we need to have like a Google form that we all fill out instead of having discussion, and then only come back to discuss the ones where it seems like there's wide, disparity or disagreement or something. Because I've enjoyed hearing what people have to say, but I just don't think we're going to get through them all.
Well,
we could do something like that. So you're suggesting like a Google form and then, yes, no, extra thoughts, and anywhere there's no like, where it's like really like somebody's viscerally like, no.
Right. Like big disagreement. And maybe we could all review the results of that and say like, okay, yeah, like I totally see that number 20 is like an issue. Let's talk about that one. But yeah, otherwise. Yeah, I'm basically suggesting putting the matrix into a Google form with people's ability to react.
Does that sound to everybody?
I'm sure Tom would agree.
Is there an open meeting law?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, because I'll collect it all.
Okay, so
it might not be. You all can't be in the same document, but it.
If it was like a survey.
That's what I'm thinking of, like a survey. Where
yeah, that's what I meant.
Not a group editing.
So like survey.
No, not group editing. No. Yeah, like a survey or something. Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
I'm happy to do that. I think there's a lot of stuff in here that like staff, you know, we're not opposed to, so we can, you know, add more data. I mean, looking at it, you know, I look at 19, consider adding multi-level parking to High Grove lot. I'm gonna say I disagree with that. I think that if you were doing anything at High Grove lot, like you wanna consider all the parking lots, like that could be a great spot for housing.
I think staff should
Multi-level
respond to
parking
the
that we actually
survey
don't
too.
need right now. What's that?
I think you should respond to the survey too, because the way that the answers are collected, then people can look at them and see like, oh, that's why she said that. I also think it's totally acceptable for you to ask Tom to put together a Google form for everyone to fill out because he was very thoughtful, but there's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Happy to it. Gemma?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I do have a question about open meeting law, and I was trying to pull it up very quickly because as far as I'm aware, the open meeting law really covers any meetings at which decisions are made. So I wouldn't necessarily see a problem with us contributing to a shared document, on top of which the fact that we would have to discuss the document in public afterwards. But if you want to do it as a survey and to have somebody take the time to compile the answers before we discuss it, that's, I guess, also an option. I just think it's a little inefficient.
We've got.
Well, that's the beauty of evil Google is that they compile all the answers for you.
Yeah, I mean, so Gemma, I think the Secretary of State's office guidance has been not to work in shared documents, so I'd rather not. I think it could potentially be great because shared documents actually track everything as well, but I'd rather just stay away from it.
Yeah, that's consistently been their interpretation of open meeting laws, so I don't think we want to rock the boat on that.
Right.
But you could advocate to your elected officials to change open meeting law to allow it.
Elections are coming up.
Believe it or not, I've actually been considering that with all, you know, since we just had at a recent select board meeting an overview of open meeting law, and, you know, that caused me to actually read it for the first time. And yeah, we have a lot of problems with communications in this town, and I think the open meeting law is actually getting in the way of it. But that's a whole different topic.
So we can move forward in that way. I mean, the other thing is I think there's a whole bunch in here that are just like kind of easy. I think you might all have opinions, but we could make some changes and then just note it that way after the fact. Because I do want to keep moving on editing these drafts.
Right.
And so we can always note where those changes have happened. And
I think we have to put our trust in you to move us forward in whatever way we can with so many things. So I think if you put together a plan and have a survey and combine that with whatever else you think is most efficient, then I'm very happy to trust you all to do that.
So the key word is efficient.
Is there anything as you prepared for the meeting, is there anything that like really stuck out to you that you want to give us today, or?
I think we covered a lot. I don't know everyone else, but like I said, because Tom's not in, I'm sure he probably would have wanted to expound on a few things. But do we wait for him to get back to finalize that particular? You just want to go forward?
No, we need to keep moving.
Okay.
So I don't know when he's back.
Yeah. He hasn't said anything.
We'll get out the survey. I'm actually gone
Okay.
later this week, so it might be early next week.
Okay.
To get something.
And we can send, and then he'll have to wait till he comes back. I don't know if we want to send it electronic overseas, but whatever.
Well, I will admit that I have not spent as much time with these documents as I would have liked to, it being election week.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. So how does everybody feel about that? Just getting a pulse here, or reading how everyone feels. If we get a thumbs up, is that we have faith in Sue's ability and we're good?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right.
And if we want to work through a few more before the end of the evening, then that's great too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 15 more minutes.
We got 15 minutes and not too much of an OTM of myself. So.
Do any of you want to look through it?
Any
pick
particular
something
ones
out
you
that
guys
you
wanna, maybe one or two?
I particularly like comment number 18 because I feel like I said it also at a previous meeting. So I too would like to encourage connections. That is, I think, really valid and important in a place where some people are struggling with housing and finding jobs and things of that nature. And I would also just add that in general, and we can talk about this separately, Sue. I'm really curious to know how we plan regionally, even when it's not across borders. Like, we were talking earlier in the meeting about different assets that we might want to acquire as a town. Um, like more plows for the sidewalks, for example. But I'm just interested in knowing more about that and ways that we can be involved with helping the town be more efficient when we provide services or purchase equipment.
I'm a little unclear as to what number 18 means, to encourage connections to Keene and such.
Transit, it's the bus system.
Oh, okay. Yes, then very much so I support that.
Regional
Yeah.
bus, well, more, inter-county bus service.
And that being brought up too about connections too, like with Putney, because now they're building housing up there. My thing is how they're gonna get into town.
There is the bus.
That one
mover
bus that
runs out.
goes up and the one that goes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there is actually a bus service for that, so.
Oh, okay, perfect. That's, and I get what you guys are saying about connecting and job wise and all that, people getting back and forth to appointments and all that. So that's the thing, is accessibility is a big thing.
The economic development chapter, that needs a refresh as well. So there's a lot in there that I think we'll get hit on. He was looking for an explanation of the surprisingly large number of government jobs, and I mean it's Department of Labor data. I question that data myself. It says we have over like 1,000 government jobs, and I don't know where that's coming from either, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get you an answer.
Do we even have a rough idea of how many the town employs?
The town employs, I think it's like 130, 140.
Oh yeah, then there's no way we're getting to 1,300 even with the state offices.
No. So I don't know what else is in there. Yeah,
I can take another look in the metadata and see what we can see, but it's the data we have. Obviously, if we all think it's suspect, then it certainly seems off.
How many federal jobs do we have now? Do we even have any left?
we have court jobs. I think there's some court that might be
Does the FDA office still exist here?
Does. There's USPS. I think they're under federal.
Who's the one that moved from down USDA? They're not here. They're down in Keene now, correct?
That's what I was.
No, they're here.
Oh
wait,
down.
maybe I'm thinking NRCS versus NRCD. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I did check. They have moved. They're not operating out of the Vernon Street.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. The rural development office. But that was only a few people anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean.
Looking through more of Tom's comments now and scanning them more quickly, a lot of them do seem like mostly for you all. Either you have the data or you don't, or you think it should fit in there or you don't. So I'm guessing that maybe whatever survey you create will actually not be as big as I initially thought it would be.
No, that's what I'm thinking too, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Like, I put them all in, but as I was typing them, I'm like, or cut and pasting them, I'm like, well, this is easy, you can do this, you can do that.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a couple that are like a little bit policy conversation. Like, he's got one under historic resources, and for those of you who've been on the committee for a while, we've had this conversation, but he's number 34 is add a policy or action to get buy-in from residents and owners in order to establish a valid, significant community desire for historic regulations or district designation. So, you know, I think that, you know, some historic preservation ordinances include that, ours does not. I don't know that, you know, the benefit is to the entire community, and I'm not sure establishing buy-in, if we think something is, if the community thinks something is important, that could be a roadblock in my mind, but it could be worth having a straw poll or, you know, neighborhood meeting, you know, those kind of things could be part of it, but.
I think it's worth noting too that we've heard this specific comment come up quite a few times, I would say. It didn't come up in any of the public participation, like organically from members. No one's ever come to a DRC meeting that I've staffed with that specific concern either. And I don't think that we are looking at adding any new districts with regulatory impact unless members of the public came to us with like a shovel ready, we want to be a historic district type proposal. So the recriminating what happened like 20 years ago or 40 years ago with the districts we have now seems like it doesn't need to really happen. But that's just one take.
Well, I never fully understood the historical district conversation, so I don't have any further comments on that section. I tried, I didn't get it, but.
So I can just high level, because some of you weren't around, Bunny, I think you may have been, but Gemma, you were not. So we have some special regulations that sit over our National Register of Historic Districts. So that's like the downtown, West Brattleboro Village. It also includes two very working class neighborhoods, Horton Homestead and Clark Canal. And so the concern is, you know, you can look at downtown and you can see some high architecture and you can kind of understand it, but why are some of these working class neighborhoods, the concern is why are they subject to additional design regulations when there's arguably, I would say not really arguably, there's other areas of town that have historic character, maybe more of a fine architecture or something like that, high architecture, as opposed to kind of a vernacular, you know, type thing. So it kind of goes back to our choice to put these design districts on the National Register districts. When some of them were formed basically to get tax credits for housing development. So Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust formed some of these, put them on the National Register to get historic district tax credit. So that's kind of the issue, like what is it that the community cares about? Do they care about, you know, these working class neighborhoods? What do they care about? That is it the settlement pattern? Is it the architecture? Are they really intact anymore? Is it worth having them on? And so I think that's the idea behind a vote. Like, do the people that live there kind of value what's there and want this extra level of review?
Bonnie.
How do you determine if the people that live there? I mean, I know of a location that has a historic value. You know where the SD buildings are. There's this teeny little park that has a little bandstand.
Yep.
That's been there forever, and it's kind of falling apart. But I know at one time, a lot of the families that lived there would gather. There would be music there. It's been a long time. But how would they be able to establish that as being a historic?
Well, the way ours is done now is because it's a National Register Historic District, it would have to get listed as a National Register Historic District, so they'd have to hire a consultant to come in and do the research and whatnot. So that's kind of a big deal. But we could also have historic districts that are not tied to the National Register. So this is the whole
I think it's probably worth tabling this or giving the needed context that for more than 5 years we've had background work going on with other committees that are specifically delegated this task to decouple those so that there is not any punitive or apparent punitive aspect of, great, my neighborhood got registered on the NRHP. Oh no, now I have these onerous, I guess, responsibilities as a homeowner that I have to get approved through the town that I didn't before. I understand that there are concerns with that, but it was a existing policy in the 2018 plan. It's been something that we had this conversation quite a lot in past years on this board too, to make sure that we did decouple that and we're moving in that direction. So that really does seem like a settled issue in that regard. And insofar as establishing a more clear procedure on how someone would come bring a new district to us, also something that's come up and seems to have universal support, at least from current DRC, I would say, staff. It appears to be members of the Biz Commission. But as far as, I think we've gotten a statement on this that is missing some context and it seems a little charged. And it's also maybe reflecting how we were doing things in years past that is not what we anticipate doing now. And I don't think that our current chapter reflects any intention to do it in the way that's being alleged. Sorry, get off my soapbox now.
All right, it's 7:57 then.
All right, people over there, anyone has any additional, any deletions they want to mention, they can speak now. If not, it's now 7:59. Speak now, I guess, before I hold your peace.
I just want to ask, when you put together this poll, I guess, or survey, do you intend to include the topics that we have already covered?
No.
Okay.
Do you want?
Well, the only thing is that under transportation, we never did talk about number 20. And I just want to say that I'm in support of that.
I mean, I did intend to put in whatever we didn't finish up, so.
Right. But I just figured maybe we should just cover the whole transportation section now and then.
It's the last one.
Yeah.
So it's an action to develop shortcuts for pedestrians, agreements or easements advertised with signage to get from like the north end of Arch Street to northwest to Main Street, Walker Place to Municipal parking lot. So it's kind of like it's kind of, the downtown design plan actually gets into this. It's asking little shortcut signage.
Yep. Oh, and just to say that I agree with you about number 19. I don't think multi-level parking in the High Grove lot is necessarily the way to go. I think we already have a huge problem with the multi-level parking that we do have that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. But I'll leave it at that for now.
It's wide enough.
Okay. Anybody, public comments or anything? No one's on the...
Nope, no one's on.
Oh, okay. So I'd like to get a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye. All right.
Aye.
Enjoy. See you guys tomorrow at the polls.
Yes, please get out and vote.
Thank you guys. You guys were the greatest. Tom's going to be sending cookies and stuff. So.